Hey guys, Aaron Cyberstrong Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online series 10 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the last episode, we used a really fun Lunala team featuring some really interesting sets like Choice Scarf Tapu Lele and Wide Guard Lunala. So we'll be playing a couple more matches with it today. Thanks once again to Hummus for the team. Details are in the description below, and let's just get started for today's match. So it's going to be Groudon, Cherrim, Entei. Pretty funny, that was actually one of the archetypes I was planning on featuring pretty soon because Wolfie used it pretty recently. So they have Tailwind. I mean, like, Trick Room here is probably not bad. It's pretty easy to go Incineroar plus Lunala here. Or fake out Trick Room, and even though they have Dragapult, since Dragapult can't Dynamax, I'm not that worried about it. By the way, it feels like a lot of Dragapults right now are actually Choice Band Dragapult, so it's something to watch out for. I guess the question is whether or not I want to bring, like, Stakataka here. Moongeist Beam does really good damage across the board. They actually don't have a Ghost Resist, so we can use that to our advantage. I think I probably want to bring Rillaboom. I know it seems a little bit suspect when they have an Entei on their team. That being said, it's still just really consistent damage into Groudon specifically. And then the last one's between Urshifu and Lele. Like, Urshifu is pretty awkward here because they're going to set up the sun, so it's not actually going to do that much damage. And I guess Scarf Lele can be interesting. Yeah, I mean, they don't have a Psychic Resist, so I'm going to bring Lele, but I do think that it fits in a little bit awkwardly. So we'll see how it plays out. Either way, though, thank you so much as always for watching Road to Ranked. If you enjoyed, please share your support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, I want to know what shows you've been watching lately. I know people like to answer Road to Ranked for this one, so I always appreciate it when people do. But I was mainly inspired by me starting and kind of binging Ted Lasso in the last week and a half or so. And it's definitely become one of my favorite shows. So that would be my answer. But it's going to be the Groudon and the Entei. Okay. Well, I can't flinch Entei with Inner Focus. Honestly, I think the play I want to make turn 1, it's kind of weird. Like, because the Entei obviously pressures me with Sacred Fire. They're also wider. Okay, I don't love seeing that. Very good anti-Incineroar lead here. But I think the play I'm going to make is just fake out into the Groudon and then just go for Meteor Beam into the Entei slot. Because we can knock out Entei, that paves the way for both Rillaboom and Tapu Lele in the back. And even though a Sacred Fire and Sun is going to hurt Lunala, it's not going to KO us. We'll also get important information on speeds between Lunala and Groudon here. I expect Groudon to be faster, but we'll see. Okay. There's the flinch. They're not going to risk missing. Actually, they just go for Flare Blitz. And yep, there's a target into Lunala, but we take that really nicely with our ability. Okay, so just like yesterday in which we Meteor Beamed a bunch of Incineroars, just really hoping we don't miss here. If we connect, we're in really, really good shape, especially if we KO Entei. Because if Entei's out of the way, it just makes Rillaboom and Lele's life a lot easier. Okay, we get the Meteor Beam off. It connects, which is awesome. And that's a knockout. Perfect. All right, not a bad start to the game then, honestly. That's a critical hit, so if they were AV Entei, that may have mattered, but I don't know. With the special attack boost, not 100% sure. It turns out Groudon's actually pretty slow here. That's actually really important information as well. And the tough thing for Groudon right now is that I have Wide Guard. So if they don't expect Wide Guard, what I can do this next turn is just like Wide Guard and Parting Shot, which would be super nice for us right now. Either way, Lunala continues to demonstrate just how strong it can be with that power of Meteor Beam. So very, very happy about that. Now if I'm my opponent, I would probably bring in the Cherrim. There it is. Okay. I mean, Cherrim in general is just pretty interesting. I honestly really like the Parting Shot into Groudon here and the Wide Guard. We'll see what they go for. Maybe pivoting out into Rillaboom is okay. I just think right now the Incineroar is in a pretty good spot, and then, like, once again, you just have the element of surprise with Wide Guard from Lunala, which is super nice. Okay, it's going to be Solar Blade. That's fine. As long as they're going for Precipice Blades. Like, I don't think this KOs us, right? Let's see. It's such a cool animation, though. Does not KO us. Okay, nice. Nicely done, though. They go for Heat Crash. Oh, into the Incineroar slot. That's interesting. Okay. So, I had the opportunity to just go for a Moongeist Beam there, but I don't regret going for Parting Shot. I think it's just a pretty safe play that we made this turn. So, I feel okay about that. What this allows me to do is now bring in the Rillaboom. With Rillaboom out, I have a bunch of plays. I can, one, go for Fake Out plus Moongeist Beam, and even Trick Room here, which is kind of interesting. But I don't think I want to set up Trick Room with Groudon out on the field right now. Yeah, it's just Fake Out plus Moongeist Beam into Cherrim is like fairly obvious. I'm honestly contemplating not going for that. Because what we can do is switch the Lunala out into Incineroar to pivot another Fake Out. It's just that I can see Groudon switching out right now. If I were my opponent, I would protect Cherrim and then swap Groudon out. But then it's like, what are you really threatened with? Your remaining Pokemon aren't really that scary. Yeah, okay, I like Fake Out into Cherrim here. I think switching to Incineroar is probably the right play here rather than going for Moongeist Beam. But they don't protect. Okay, cool. Yeah, I was kind of making a read there, but I don't know if that was the best play, even though it worked out for us this turn. Like, I feel like we had a better play to make. I just didn't want to play too passively since we have a pretty good advantage in the game right now. Nice. Getting rid of Cherrim is such a big deal because we've also gotten the Groudon to -1 attack already, which is really critical. And they go for Precipice Blades. Lunala actually dodges it, so this game is played out as perfectly as possible. But to be honest, even if that connected on Lunala, I felt very confident about our endgame with Incineroar to further intimidate the Groudon and the Scarf Tapu Lele. And as soon as we eliminate both Entei and Cherrim, their Lele answers are really poor, in my opinion. So, we'll see what their last one is. I'm kind of expecting Dragapult, but it is Rillaboom. Okay. Yeah, so it's like, even if Lunala had fainted there, I would just bring in Incineroar, and then with Incineroar, I'd get it Intimidate onto this, so I would just click Fake Out onto Rillaboom. Actually, no, I'd probably click Fake Out into Groudon and Grassy Glide into it, because at that point, like, Incin just does really well into both of these, and then Lele gets Terrain Control. But now we're obviously even in a better position, which is great. I mean, we have Incineroar for Intimidates here. You can't Fake Out into Lunala. I'm down to just switch Rillaboom out into Incineroar to get it Intimidate off. And go for a Moongeist Beam here onto the... I'm going to target Rillaboom here just because Groudon is typically the one that's going to have Protect, whereas Rillaboom isn't. And since we have the numbers advantage, I want to just turn this as quickly into my favor in terms of numbers, right? Just have a 3v1 or 2v1 in the end game. And honestly, I would have preferred for Precipice Blades to have knocked out Lunala, so then I just get the free switch it into Incineroar and have Fake Out pressure with it. They're just going to go for Glide. Nice. So with Intimidate, we survived that. Great. Groudon's at -2 now. I'm not even sure Precipice Blades will one-shot Incineroar from the range that it's at. We get Moongeist Beam off. Really good damage there. And they actually go for Heat Crash again. And this is the beauty of having Wide Guard, right? My opponent's playing super scared of Precipice Blading into Wide Guard, which is like a very fair, you know, kind of assumption to go for. Okay, so we heal back up. And that should secure the game up for us at this point. I think that's AV Rillaboom, but honestly, I don't know my Lunala. +1 Lunala into AV Rillaboom calcs super well. You can just Fake Out. Yeah, with Lele and the Rillaboom in the back, it's actually fine to... Oh, no, we want to be a little bit careful about how the terrain gets set up. I'm just going to double up onto Rillaboom here. Yeah, they end up just forfeiting. Okay, nice. I mean, that game was one off us having Power Meteor Beam once again and just one-shotting that Entei. I do want to do the damage calc really quickly because I think that's a pretty important calc to know, specifically against Assault Vest Entei. So let me pull up the calc and let's look over it. So first things first, actually, I totally, realized towards the end, it's like, oh, we are fairly confident Rillaboom had the Assault Vest. I just wanted to do the damage calc to be sure. So yeah, they must have been AV, right? Because we were at +1 special attack. So with the Assault Vest, we actually probably got a lower roll there as well. Maybe they had more bulk though. But yeah, even against AV Rillaboom, you're doing 63 to 75%. And if you take that Assault Vest away, it just does... It's nearly a one-shot, right? So Rillaboom obviously had AV, Entei did not have Assault Vest then, but it's still helpful to know, what the calcs look like if you are up against AV Entei. So let's quickly plug that in and see how it works. So if it's AV Entei with no bulk, the Meteor Beam here does 99.4 to 117%. So that's pretty darn good, right? You're one-shotting in every scenario other than the lowest roll possible. Now, of course, not all AV Enteis are going to have no bulk. Some are going to have a little bit. Some are going to have even more. And in this game, it doesn't really matter, but this is an example of how I often learn when I play VGC, where it's like I wasn't 100% sure of how that damage calc really plays out. And of course, when you're competing in like a real life tournament, you don't get access to the damage calc. So it's good in practice to kind of just like build up your intuition and your knowledge, right? And so, yeah, if you look at Pikalytics, like a lot of common Entei spreads don't really have any bulk, despite AV being one of the most common items. Now, this one has a little bit, right? 92 in HP and 60 in special defense. If you plug that into the calc, 92 HP and 60 special defense, then Meteor Beam here only has a 19% chance to one-shot. So it is very dependent on the item on Entei and the spread. I think when you do see Rillaboom on your opponent's team, like I didn't even process this until after the battle, but like only one of Rillaboom and Entei can have the AV, right? And it's more likely that Rillaboom's carrying it as opposed to Entei. So Scarf Entei is really, really common, and I wouldn't be surprised if that were the set that my opponent had. Either way, because they weren't AV and Rillaboom was, then, you know, the crit didn't matter in that game specifically, but once again, get to learn kind of the damage output so that if we go up against Entei in the future, well, now, you know, before we can confirm whether it's AV or not, we know that it's not a guaranteed KO, and that might have to change the way that we approach the game. So, yeah, but really fun one, and let's just look for another game. All right, second match of the day, up against a almost top 100 ranked opponent, so that's pretty cool. Running very standard Calyrex Shadow Rider team. This looks... I think it's all the same Pokemon Arashomati had on his invitational team, so I'm wondering if this is just the team verbatim. Okay. Probably our top 4 here. They're just so good. I'm mainly nervous about Regieleki plus Calyrex, but even if they go for that, I can just Wide Guard Shadow Ball. What about Rillaboom plus Calyrex? I can still Wide Guard, and then switch Lele out. The alternative is just leading Incineroar plus Lunala. The fear with Insane Lunala is they lead like now Ego plus Calyrex. I'm kind of down for the Scarf Lele here just to try to catch my opponent off guard. Even if they gain terrain control, then it means you have Rillaboom out on the field. And Rillaboom is not exactly super scary for us to go up against. Well, I mean, it does threaten Lunala, but we can just pivot out into Incineroar or our own Rillaboom in the back. So, yeah. This is a matchup where you could realistically go with any of the 6 Pokemon, but like Urshifu, it makes me a little bit nervous because their Regieleki, their Calyrex are so fast, and we have to go up against a Rillaboom. And then Stakataka is just super weak into the Urshifu. It actually can do really well here as well, right? Where Urshifu beats it, but if the Calyrex does not have much out on my opponent's team, Stakataka actually fares really, really well into this matchup. So I bring this concept up so frequently, and you're probably tired of me repeating it, but the idea, I often like it when a team has so many different options you can bring into a game. It makes it more stressful in a best of one, because then you're like, oh no, like what if I, you know, choose the wrong 4 Pokemon? But typically that's a good sign, right? Because it means, okay, even if I were to play my opponent multiple times, and, you know, major tournaments are best of 3, then you feel good because you have multiple different mix-ups that you can go with, and that's always really neat. So it's going to be Rillaboom plus the Calyrex. Okay. They do manage to gain terrain control here. This is where Incineroar maybe could have been helpful. But I'm okay with this. They don't know that I'm Scarfed. And so that'll be interesting. I have Wide Guard here. Now, if I were my opponent, I would fake out the Tapu Lele and substitute turn 1. Fake out plus sub does feel somewhat likely, or you could just obviously fake out an Astral Barrage. I mean, if we eliminate... I've got Wide Guard. I can bring in Rillaboom here. Yeah, honestly, like, bringing out Rillaboom and Wide Guarding seems okay. But part of me just wants to Moongeist Beam because I really think they're just going to sub here. Nah, but even if they sub, I think Wide Guard's the better play here. Because I can just break the sub with the Grassy Glide next turn, and then they then see my Wide Guard, and they have to respect that a lot too. Okay. You're gonna Wide Guard. You're not gonna fake out, which is really well done on there, and it frustrates me a little bit because I could have just gone for that Shadow Ball. Unless they're Scarf Calyrex. That'd be really interesting. Either way, not a bad turn for us, I would say.
for what was not like the best lead. I'm willing to just glide into Calyrex now and then switch. Do I want to glide? I almost want a Trick Room here. But I don't know if Trick Room is actually that beneficial for us right now, especially with us having this priority glide. If I were my opponent, what would I do? I would switch Calyrex out right now into Incineroar, probably. With us having Wide Guard and the Rillaboom out right now, I'm honestly just going to make the read, let they protect the Calyrex, or switch it out. Yeah, I'm honestly down to U-turn here and then Meteor Beam into Calyrex. This probably isn't the best play, but it's just me kind of feeling the turn out. They go for sub, which is fine. Because even a knockoff from the Rillaboom won't KO. We'll break the sub. Although Glide plus Meteor Beam on a Calyrex would have been a super sick play. But like, pivoting out with U-turn here is nice. I get Incineroar in. And what makes this awkward for my opponent, once again, is just they have to play around Wide Guard. Actually, I'm not sure I want to bring Incineroar. I think I probably just want to bring in Lele, because then I can just go for Scarf Shadow Ball, and I don't think my opponent's going to anticipate the Choice Scarf right now. The downside is that I just used Meteor Beam, right? They go for knockoff, but yeah, after committing our item, it doesn't really do that much. And we're going to U-turn out. Good to know that their Rillaboom is faster there, though, but we get great damage from U-turn, so I'll take that. Now the thing is, like I said, I can just bring in Lele that changes the terrain. I put on pressure with Scarf Shadow Ball. And they can't really change the terrain right now. You'd have to switch Rillaboom out and then back in. So what's really safe for me to go for right now is just that we have the speed advantage with both of our Pokemon. Or specifically, Lele outspeeds Calyrex and then Lunala outspeeds Rillaboom. What I can go for is just Shadow Ball and Moongeist Beam. The tricky thing here for my opponent is even if you have Incineroar in the back, well, you can't click Fake Out into the Lele unless you change the terrain. So you'd have to switch out the Rillaboom, but if you're my opponent, you can't switch out Rillaboom and then Fake Out immediately because a Moongeist Beam, unless you sacrifice something. So like you could switch Rillaboom out into something that doesn't have Focus Sash, get one shot by Moongeist Beam, then bring in Rillaboom back in for Fake Out into Lele. That'd actually be a pretty cool play. But the thing is that my opponent's Calyrex is relying primarily on spread attacks right now, right? Like Astral Barrage and subs. We know it's not a Choice Scarf variant, which is good to know. So Meteor Beam last turn was like a little bit risky. I don't normally go for risky plays like that. I was just kind of hard reading an Incineroar switch in. Incin comes in now, but that's fine, right? And if Calyrex gets greedy here and does not protect, we are in a fantastic position. We'll see if they go for the protect. Okay, so they're smart. They scout out the protect here. What this is going to allow them to do is now pivot out the Calyrex this next turn into the Rillaboom. And then Incineroar can go for a Dark type attack onto the Lunala. So this is why it might have been smarter to kind of conserve my Meteor Beam earlier. I think the best play we could have made previously was maybe Glide and Meteor Beam into the Calyrex. Although Glide wouldn't have broken sub actually, right? So it's like, yeah, does that actually get us anywhere? Anyway, if I were my opponent, I'm switching out this Calyrex right now and then going for a Dark type attack onto Lunala. I think it's fine to stay in with Lele here just to cover for Calyrex in case like they don't realize that I'm Choice Scarfed. And I like switching Lunala onto Rillaboom because the way the terrain work or the way the speeds work is that their Calyrex will switch out first, meaning my Incin switches in after, getting an Intimidate onto both of their physical attackers. So it feels a little bit bad to give up this boost that I have, but I'm willing to make it. Because if I'm my opponent, I'm scared of Scarf Lele right now, and that's exactly what they go for. But we generally, I would say, have the damage advantage right now. They actually switch out Urshifu, which is a neat call in there, and I like that a lot, actually. And Incin going for a parting shot or like a U-turn here would be really cool. I wanted to go Shadow Ball and Moongeist Beam into Incin, but it is very risky because we could just throw the game away if they just make a really hard read in Astral Barrage. That was not a play I wanted to make. Like, I wasn't willing to take that risk there. And they do very nicely parting shot. So they play this game very well, honestly, in terms of how they position themselves. But the thing is, once again, the Scarf Lele is putting in so much pressure, right? At this point, we also know all of our opponent's Pokemon. There's no Nihilego, meaning that right now we're obviously choice locked into Shadow Ball, but at some point we can just go for Moonblast and finish everything off. Now the key thing here is that Calyrex switches in. You would think Calyrex is going to protect here. I think the safest play is actually to just go out into Rillaboom here, honestly, and just fake out into their Urshifu. That changes the terrain, so I get the fake out off. And even if Calyrex goes for Astral Barrage, it's not even that bad. The obvious play for my opponent's position to make right now, though, is protect Calyrex and just Surging Strikes top of Lele. So, yeah.
been a weird game where neither of us have really done that much damage. If I'm to be honest, like I think my opponents outpositioned me, but we have the better team matchup here. So even if they outplay us a couple of turns, it's still not the end of the world because it's just more in our favor. Let's see. I also could have got Meteor Beam knock off the turn Calyrex subbed. That would have been like a game-winning play, I feel like. Either way, you know, smart of them to play around this choice card the whole time. I'm curious if Calyrex makes a big read here and just decides to attack. Nope, they protect. Perfect. And this is super good for us, right? Because it's like now your Calyrex is in a really awkward position. You know, I just get more free damage onto Urshifu as well. Doesn't really do that much, but I'll take it. And now Calyrex is in a very weird spot. Like, you'd probably want to switch that out right now, right? Into the Incineroar. It is Water Urshifu. Just gotta double check. Like, I'm honestly content to just glide Urshifu here and go for a Throat Chop. Oh, Urshifu switching out into Incin and then Calyrex subbing would make a lot of sense here too. But I don't want Incineroar to get one shot here. And if we force their their Urshifu out, it means, yeah, I don't have to worry about Incin. So I'm willing to just Throat Chop here and glide. Something switching to Incineroar this turn, I would think. Otherwise, we would just win the game. But I don't need to make a read right now. Because once again, we have the matchup here. Yep, so they're going to actually switch out the... Oh, I guess now you could just protect the Urshifu. Parting Shot would have been a really nice play there. But once again, I don't feel the need to make a read quite yet. They don't protect. Alright, let's see if this Glide KOs even with the Intimidate. Ooh, they hang on. Okay. That's not good. That is definitely not good. I'm not sure Surging Strikes KOs. 68. We have the Berry here. Yeah, so we'll actually survive. Okay. This has been a really, really close game, honestly. That is a little bit upsetting we don't one-shot Urshifu there, because if we do KO there, we should just win the game. But that's okay. Nicely done on my opponent's end. The main thing here, though, is that they couldn't knock out Incineroar, right? So, honestly, I don't mind things too much here. Okay, their Incineroar is also faster than ours. You can see, like, how much Fake Out can, you know, play a big pivotal role in this meta, though, right? I can go into Lele, which bypasses their priority, but then I also shut down my priority. So I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of that. You could just Fake Out into Rillaboom and Surging Strikes right now. Into Incineroar. I'm just trying to set myself up for a Scarf Lele endgame. They could also Flare Blitz with this thing, so I have to be a little bit careful about that. Honestly, I think I like U-turn into Urshifu here. And switch out into Lunala right now, because Lunala will take a Surging Strikes. But they're not switching out, at least not the Urshifu. U-turn also gets me out of Flare Blitz, which is the main thing I'm looking for here. Yep, they just strikes, that's fine. Guess unless U-turn misses out on the KO, that could be an issue. They didn't Fake Out notably with the Incineroar, but that makes sense. I would Flare Blitz in their position, to be honest, because Rillaboom is such a nuisance for their Calyrex to deal with. But we'll get the U-turn off. Okay, that is enough to knock out Urshifu, thankfully. That was a critical hit. I don't know, maybe it mattered. They were so low. They're at like 5%. Either way, now I get to pivot this back out, and I think we can go out into Incineroar. The key thing here is that I still have AV Rillaboom fully healthy, and it's going to be really difficult for Calyrex on their end to deal with AV Rillaboom. But this has been a super interesting game where I feel like we had the team advantage, and if I made just one or two good reads, this would have been over a lot quicker. But I never decided to make those reads, and it puts us in a slightly weird position. However, I still really don't mind very much, quite frankly. We're up 4-3 now. We eliminated Urshifu, but Urshifu is probably the least important Pokemon to get rid of. I guess it does threaten Lele offensively the most. Like, now it's really just, if we can pick up one more KO, then we'll have terrain control and we can cycle and Intimidates. I think you always bring out Calyrex here if you're my opponent. Yep. They know I have Wide Guard. If I'm my opponent, I'd probably protect Calyrex in this position. I also have a Fake Out this turn. Got Lele and Rillaboom in the back. It's mainly just, you can see now, because I committed my Meteor Beam earlier, my damage output into their Calyrex is actually, like, a little bit subpar. Honestly, here I don't mind going for Throat Chop, I think, and Wide Guard. Well, if I'm them, I'm probably subbing. Yeah, but I want to deny the sub, and I've already intimidated Incineroar. And if they protect and knock out the Lunala, that's fine. Oh, they switch Incin out. Okay. I don't mind that. Calyrex is attacking. It's probably Substitute, right? Yeah. Or sorry, no. No, they didn't sub. Wait, that just wins us the game then. Wow, they went all in on that turn. Okay. I didn't have much incentive to not go for this play, because even if I lost Lunala, it would have been a free switch in. So, yeah, I'm not, like, super happy about how I played this game. But at the same time, maybe I should be, because we never took any... There's only one major risk we took, which was the turn I just straight up went for Meteor Beam with Lunala into Calyrex. But I just felt like there's no way Calyrex was going to attack that turn. So, in retrospect, like, even though that turn worked out okay for us, it's probably not the right play, because you should ever just throw the game away potentially on a play. That was just kind of like a gut feeling, and, you know, sometimes you make those in VGC, but, like, it's better to just play consistent and not take risks like that when there's really no reason to. And you can imagine if I just got hit by Astral Barrage there, then it's like, wow, I just really completely threw away the game. Either way, yeah, I'm really surprised by that play. But I guess my opponent was just saying, you know what, I'm just going to go all in this turn. But now the game is most definitely over. We're just switching Lele. That gives us terrain control. Go for Moongeist Beam onto the Rillaboom. And there's not really much my opponent can do with the numbers advantage at this point. So, yeah. That was a long and drawn out run, right? Like, when you look at my opponent's team, you think, oh, Calyrex, Nihilego, Regieleki, Urshifu, these are all relatively frail Pokemon, but the cycling of Intimidates and Fake Outs and Substitute and Protect makes it so that games can actually go on a lot longer than you would anticipate when you stare down, like, the team that we just went up against. So, yeah, but, I mean, Lunala continues to prove that even though, you know, it can be scary to go up against Calyrex and Incineroars, like, this team is really well equipped to have answers against the things that typically threaten you the most, right? So, that was really, really cool. But another really fun one, so let's look for one more. Final match of the day. Let's see what we're up against here. Oh, another Lunala team. Wow, really cool, though. Look at the support. It feels like all, like, the brand new support that's been reintroduced in Series 10. The Mienshao, the Volcarona, the Weavile, and the Tsareena. Now, Weavile is actually very concerning for us here with the as we're using Lunala. And because this Lunala is not max speed, I'm also pretty nervous that they're just going to outspeed us. So, I don't love this matchup at all, to be honest. Especially because they have Tsareena to block priority. Ugh. This is kind of a mess. And I can't help but wonder if setting up Trick Room is actually the right approach here. Yeah, they have... It's just, I don't know if they have Body Press on their Stakataka. Ugh. This is not pretty. We do have Scarf Lele with Shadow Ball, though. Like, maybe... But it's not one-shotting into Lunala anyway. But they don't have terrain control, so leading Lele means you can't Fake Out. Only one of Weavile and Mienshao is going to be sashed. Probably going to be Mienshao. So I'm down, I think, for Lele plus Incin. Lunala in the back, and I feel like it's actually Stakataka, and here's why. What I want to do with this lead is bait them into Meteor Beaming into Incineroar turn 1, and then hard switch Incineroar into Stakataka to get rid of Meteor Beam. Once we've eliminated their potential Meteor Beam, suddenly their answer into my Incineroar is a little bit more lackluster, and then the Incineroar completely walls the Lunala. But it feels fitting, because when we used Santi's team, in the very last game that we had with it, we went up against a Torn Ogre team with Tsareena, and now we're going up against Lunala. So it's funny to kind of get a taste of, like, our own medicine when going up against these, or trying out these different team comps. Maybe Volcarona and Stakataka. They're actually maybe thinking about the Trick Room route, which is... Huh. Yeah, this is such a weird matchup. Definitely not the leads I would have expected. I probably would want to... Nature's Madness here is actually really interesting. But, like, we can just hard switch this out into Stakataka. Yeah, I mean, the main thing is if they Trick Room, I don't have Body Press, whereas they might, and then that would give us some really major issues. Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to switch Leleon into Stakataka right now. I don't... Well, they might not Trick Room, right? Okay, so I'll Parting Shot here into Volk. That gives me another pivot as well. I have to say, though, I didn't anticipate Stakataka's lead on their end. I think it's a pretty clever one, because our Lele plus Instant would have covered for Weavile, Mienshao, Tsareena. They just go for Rage Powder. I thought about Flare Blitzing there, but I just didn't want them to, like, not set up... Like, I didn't want them to Quiver Dance Gyro Ball turn 1. And I don't know the Volcarona set yet, so I'm fine just Parting Shot for pivoting right now. The big question is whether or not they have Body Press and Stakataka. To be honest, it is pretty common as an attack, so I do kind of anticipate it, but we'll see. The thing is, with Lunala out now, it's like... Their team is faster than ours, so if you set up Trick Room, that actually theoretically could be beneficial for us. And they do Trick Room. Okay. Volcarona protecting here feels super likely, right? It just makes very little sense to not protect or switch out. So I think I'm going to pivot back out into Incineroar to scout out for Body Press. Well, even if you have Body Press, it's not that bad for us right now. You know what? I'm willing to just Rock Slide here and Moongeist Beam into Stakataka. It's just free damage. Body Press won't KO our stack anyway. They switch Volk out, which is fine. Into Tsareena. Okay. We'll see if... Yeah, the main question is, if you don't have Body Press, this is actually a very good position for us, but I assume they do. Decent damage there. They do have Body Press, okay. Now the question is the Tsareena moveset. Do you have anything like in one-shot Lunala this next turn? This still does so much damage. The thing is, I could have reversed Trick Room there, which would have been pretty interesting. And their Life Orb Stakataka. Okay. That makes sense. Truth be told, the play I want to make this next turn is to protect the... That's really good damage. Is protect Stakataka and reverse Trick Room. It's just my fear is if they double up on Lunala with Stack and Tsareena. But even then, can you pick up a KO? We'll see. Okay, we get Protect off. They read into it. Nicely done. It's going to be Gyro Ball. Okay. They just U-turn, though. That's fine. Is it fine? That was also a pretty risky play on their end, because if my Stakataka just attacks there... Actually, since their Stakataka was so low, maybe I could have just risked the speed tie. Either way, their Stakataka is not really doing anything into Lunala right now, which is pretty good for us, so I'll take that. Now we have a free Meteor Beam into the Volk slot. I'm not even sure of a Fire-type attack from Volk KO, so I might be willing to Meteor Beam Stakataka and Rock Slide. I have to be kind of meticulous about when I click Meteor Beam with this team. Like, that's the main thing, right? I feel like we have an okay position right now. On my opponent, what am I doing here? Stakataka have Protect, Trick Room, Body Press, and Gyro Ball? No, I'd be really surprised. I don't think it has Protect. This play was questionable. I thought really hard about setting up Trick Room again. Oh, they just Fiery Dance. Does that KO us? It does? Ugh. That's bad. I have to be honest, I did not think that would get a KO because they were a Rage Powder set. And if I launched Meteor Beam into Volk here, that was probably game over. They also got a special attack boost, so yeah. I made that play thinking that we wouldn't get knocked out on Stakataka, but they're probably an offensive Volcarona set with the Quiver Dance as well. So I think Meteor Beaming into Volk was fine here, especially because our Lunala wasn't at threat of taking damage from Stakataka, and Stakataka was one hit away from getting KO'd. So I think they're actually in a pretty winning position now because of the play I just made. So not really happy about that, but that's okay. I'll bring Lele out. The thing here is my Lunala is slow. That's why I wanted to click Trick Room that last turn. But the main thing was I wasn't sure if Volk was going to KO us. And I should have just launched Meteor Beam into Volk. Because I think if we did, we'd actually still be in a pretty good spot right now. Them getting the special attack boost is also just not good for us, but it happens. Yeah, I didn't play that last turn well. I just didn't know what the 100% right play was, but I don't think there's any risk of Meteor Beam. I think Meteor Beam there and just Rock Slide is fine into Volk. Well, the problem is actually, no, if they just protect Volk, sacrifice Stakataka, get Lunala in for free, I'm still in a really bad spot. Yeah. I still see a way to win, though. And it's to hope for them to Rage Powder here. They don't Rage Powder, though. Okay, yeah. Well done. That should win them the game, I think. That does do a lot. Fiery Dance KO whoever it's targeting here. I wouldn't think so. Okay, Lunala does survive. Another special attack boost, though. And you go for Meteor Beam. So this is what I was trying to play towards. Where now, potentially, Incineroar can win. Well, first of all, we'll see who they target. Wait, is Fiery Dance a guaranteed special attack boost? I always forget. I was implying that it wasn't, but yeah, they doubled up onto Lunala. It's 50%, okay. Oh, but terrain disappears. So I probably lose off that then, because then their Tsareena can win the game. Yeah, I kind of mismanaged my resources in this game, like, but I also think my opponent's lead was really smart, and that's what I was saying, right? The Stakataka matchup is bad for us because they have body press and we don't. But I'd actually done enough damage to it, and like, the main turn was just when they had Volk and Stack. I was just trying to figure out how I could, like, maintain speed control. But the thing is, if we, it's just if Volk protects there, do I ever have a safe play? And I think the play is to actually switch out my Stakataka there into Incineroar, because even though body press hurts, oh no, it's to go into Lele. That's what it was, I think. The play that turn was to Meteor Beam, Volk, and then go into Lele. So we can play towards crit Psyshock. I'm gonna Psyshock Lunala to try to break Sash and Throat Chop it. Not Sash, Shield. They do go for Rage Powder though, yeah. It should just be Rage Powder into Moongeist Beam onto Lele, and then I don't... Even though Incineroar is really good against Lunala and the Tsareena, it's not enough for us. So if we crit there... Wait. They lose off a miss here, but I think this is the correct play. Oh man, Psyshock was so close to picking up the knockout onto Volk too, because if that KOs... No, but Lunala would still survive Third Chop. I didn't think they needed to risk a Meteor Beam there, but it is a 90% chance to just win the game, so it actually makes a lot of sense in retrospect. But, no, I assume you have high jump kick on this thing as well, so it's like you just Meteor Beam and high jump kick, and you just hope one of the two hits, right? So, no, I think that makes sense. But if they miss Meteor Beam and for some reason Tsareena doesn't have high jump kick or misses, we could actually win the game, which would be wild since this game felt like it was completely over. Anyway, here's Psyshock to break a Shadow Shield. Is Meteor Beam going to connect? It is. Okay. Well played. Yeah, like, I knew this matchup was going to be tricky, and it was even trickier because my opponent did a really good job bringing that Stakataka early. So then I was, like, nervous about, like, setting up Trick Room. Maybe I should have just let Trick Room stay up, to be honest, because we would have had the speed advantage. They just thoroughly outplayed me in this one, but I don't feel super bad because I feel like we had pretty good opportunities to win the match, despite it being a tough matchup and despite them playing well. It was mainly me just really miscalculating the turn Fiery Dance KO Stakataka. So I do want to run the damage calc for that real quick, because if we pick up that knockout there and we go up 4-2, we're in pretty darn good shape. Because then Sim plus Lele should just seal up the game for me. So I'm very curious about the damage calc there, so let's pull it up and run some numbers. So if Volcarona doesn't have any special attack investment against our spread, we had 64 HP, and so you can see we can survive just under 50% of the time. However, and part of the reason I like got baited into thinking they weren't going to be offensive Volcarona, and I was also kind of just expecting Heat Wave, which does even less, right? So if it's Heat Wave with no offense, actually, Stakataka survives the turn for sure. But this is just a bad gamble on my end, right? Because even though they had revealed Rage Powder, like, it makes sense for Volcarona to still carry some offense. In fact, a lot of Volcaronas, not a lot, but some Volcaronas will run, like, you know, a lot of offense, but also just have Rage Powder as a potential defensive pivot, right? So it's like, if you have any special attack investment, like, let's say you're modest in max special attack, that's just a guaranteed KO onto my Stakataka there. So this was me just kind of underestimating Volcarona's damage output and kind of trying to take an educated guess that they weren't going to be super offensive because they had revealed that Rage Powder. So I'm not really sure what spread they were in the end, but either way, even in the chance that they had no offense at all, it was still like a 50-50 damage roll, basically. Slightly more in their favor, actually. So the main thing here is that I like, even thinking that they were not going to be offensive, like, they can still KO half the time, right? So that's just a bad play on my end to take that risk. So like I said, if I were to replay that turn, I think I really like Meteor Beam into the Volcarona and switch out into Lele. Because what that does, and the main thing that made that last game really awkward was, like, I was like, oh, you know, I don't want Trick Room to go up because then their Tsareena under Trick Room is pretty scary. But I think the reality is that, like, they didn't have very good answers for my Lunala under Trick Room, so I didn't actually need to reverse their Trick Room. I could have just utilized their Trick Room and played under it, and I think that was one of the main mistakes that I'd made. The only thing I was kind of awkward about was, like, not knowing what Tsareena was going to fully do, and I guess I still didn't, you know, fully know their Lunala speed, whereas they do. And so, yeah, I'm really curious if it was just max speed. But given that their team looked relatively fast, I think it was fair to assume that they were going to be faster than us at the start of the game, right? And that is the assumption I played under. So, a couple of bad mistakes in this game. One was just reversing the Trick Room when it actually benefited us, especially after the amount of damage we got with Moongeist Beam. And then two, the main thing was, yeah, not switching out Volcarona, or sorry, Stakataka out in that position. Because I think if we switch Stack out into Lele and Meteor Beam into Volcarona, well, even if Volcarona protects, Stakataka is very unlikely going to Gyro Ball into Lele. I mean, if they do, that's a really good play. And so it's like, that covers for, like, I don't have an 100% safe play there. But even in that position, I'd get a special attack boost. My Volcarona wouldn't take any damage. Then I guess the problem is that they still have their Volc in the back as well. So, yeah. It was just a tricky one to maneuver, and I think, like, that turn looked pretty bad, but the main thing was I didn't really fully understand how to play that game. And it was because they went with the mix-up of leading Stakataka, which was really smart. And I think they, like, had a nice early game. We actually put ourselves in a pretty good spot, but then reversing Trick Room just wasn't a very good decision on my end. So, yeah. Anyway, that was a really fun episode, and I generally really enjoyed playing with this Lunala team. You know, we played against some really high-ranked opponents, some really standard teams, so you can see how you can use slightly less conventional restricted Pokemon to still do really well in this format and in the metagame. So, thanks so much as always for watching. Details in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.